Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. And we're almost on time this week because the technical problems have been resolved. I wish I had done it myself, but I have, fortunately, family members who are a little more technologically oriented than I, and they helped, or should I say she, solve the problem for me. Okay, but remember, this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat, and we're about trying to make the world safe for ADHD. And as I think I've been using that tagline for some months now anyway, but the more I think about it, the more I think we need to maybe define a little bit more about making the world safe for ADHD. Because that, all kinds of people will have all sorts of different notions about what that means. You know, everything from just make it so easy for them that they don't have to struggle for anything, to putting them in special classrooms, which is of course absurd, but I wouldn't be surprised, but there are some small group out there that thinks that would be a good idea. No, but ADHDers, okay, and if you haven't watched me before, I'm a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist, and I'm in private practice, and I work at least half of my time with ADHD kids, adults, families. I also coach ADHD executives. Mostly executives. I do some other folks with ADHD as well, but most of my coaching is about ADHD. I developed my expertise, if you will, basically being the parent of an ADHD, then child, now adult. And I learned a lot, and I wish I'd gone into it knowing more, because, as I've said before, I went through a complete ADHD sanctions, that means they approved it, program, and didn't hear one darn thing about ADHD. Nothing. Absolutely zip. And I had two guys I knew who were also psychologists who had done postdocs in pediatrics. And they didn't know how to evaluate for ADHD or how to recognize it, or certainly, and most important, how to treat it. So over the years, we have increased greatly the knowledge about ADHD, the awareness of ADHD. We have proof that it actually is a thing. It exists. It can be spotted on PET scans, and we also have significant information on how to treat it better. And, with that has come, I think, some more acceptance of ADHD. Back when I was parenting, if your kid was acting out, it was because you were a lousy parent. And that was sometimes a little hard to stomach, the idea that you don't know what you're doing as a parent. That is one of those shame makers, I think, for most of us, especially when he's throwing the mother of all temper tantrums. What's the matter with that guy? Doesn't he know how to parent a kid? Needs a little discipline, etc., etc. So we get that all the time, okay? And now I think we're in a position where some of us are getting a little too cocky, I think. We want to waste a lot of time playing around. Well, first of all, playing around with names. We're getting so many. I will admit, frankly, that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is not perhaps the most accurate definition or description of the condition. But, on the other hand, how much does that really matter when all the laws that apply already recognize it. I don't know that we need to get into basically discussions that are only meaningful academically about what to call it. I mean, if there was a consensus and we could reach it, readily or rapidly, fine. But every expert on ADHD has got his or her own special tag that they'd like to put on the condition. And I don't want to go into all that, but I'm not sure how helpful that is. Because I think one of the big things I see as a problem, maybe it's just in my area of the country, I don't know, but I have a problem that people don't treat their children medically. They don't get a good evaluation. They don't follow through on the treatment recommendations. Some of them try various, what I call weeds and seeds approaches, here, take this stimulant, or no, not stimulant, good Lord, heaven forbid they do that, but not, take this capsule or that magic capsule or and as a result, I'm seeing these same people 20 years later, or 15 for that matter, and they want to be diagnosed because they want the regular medical treatment, because weeds and seeds didn't work, and they're sick of not being able to complete academic courses. They're sick of getting fired from jobs. They're sick of having troubles with relationships, all the things that tend to happen to folks with ADHD. And they frequently have never been what is generally accepted, and what is the research tends to prove is effective treatment for ADHD. I mean, it's just it's an issue that I think is I understand. I mean, I understand why parents would be reluctant to put their precious little bundle of joy on a medication, perhaps for the rest of his or her life. But I'm here to tell you that the people who have ADHD and who don't get treated don't do as well in life as the folks who are treated early, treated effectively, followed through. They do better. They do better in life. They have fewer incidences of substance abuse. They have better academic performance. They have better job performance. I don't know what to tell you to make it more obvious to you, but we have and I will tell you that I don't write prescriptions, so I don't make any money from writing prescriptions. Currently, I am not on any regular medications, cross my heart and hope that continues, but I am not a real fond supporter of pharmacy companies, pharmaceuticals, but I recognize that right now I probably would not still have a wife if it weren't for pharmaceuticals and the various researches they support. My wife's a cancer survivor, and it's been 15 years now. Thank you very much. And pretty sure that none of that would have happened without medical care, medical treatment. And I don't necessarily, I was a fan of appropriately treating ADHD before we got into all this with cancer and that sort of thing, but they're not all evil, okay? They're not all the people who are going to increase the cost of a medication 20 times or 200 times or whatever the heck it was. They do research that helps people, and I would not recommend anybody not be cautious, not pay attention, not read a little bit and find out what the. I would also you got to watch out for the one thing one critique I have of the whole internet and finding information on the internet is that nobody's evaluating what is said. Is this true? Is what they're saying true? And is what they're saying what somebody says can be true for their particular situation, but it doesn't mean it's true for a lot of people, okay? Research is not all yes or no, okay? Research is a little more complicated than that. There can be one kind of treatment that works for one person, but it won't work for everybody. And that's one of the things many folks are not aware of. It's more a matter of, they tried wheatgrass with their kid and he got better. I will tell you that there are tons of reasons why people get better other than the specific thing that they're using to get better, such as attention, social support increasing, all those kind of things. Here, take this, and I'm going to watch you closer than I usually watch you. Some people change just because of that. You can look up the Hawthorne effect if you'd like, which explains it in more detail. I don't want to go into it forever, but it's just the idea that you need to make sure that what you're reading about is what was actually going on, okay? And the weakest kind of information is what's called case study, which is just one person talking about one other person, a kid or whatever, and in a specific situation. You can't really make a general statement from that one situation, from that one kid, from that one patient, if you will. So that's what pharmacy companies do. They do big research with lots of people and a lot in different parts of the country and different demographics and so on. And so when your doctor tells you that such and such as medication would be helpful for your child's ADHD, believe that has been researched and generally proven to be true. The effectiveness of just the stimulants, because there are a couple of different kinds of medication you can use for ADHD, but stimulants are the oldest and the best known probably, and the one most adults with ADHD are probably on, but it's been used with ADHD kids since 1937, okay? And it has minimal side effects, and it in general has been the most effective treatment for ADHD we've got, and it's good for about 85-90% of everybody who's been diagnosed with ADHD. And the folks for whom it has not been effective, I don't know. It may not be that they were well evaluated. It certainly is possible. Okay, so when you think your child has a problem, or you think your husband or your wife has a problem with attention and focus and all that stuff, first step is the evidence-based treatments. That's what you got to do first. You can't I'm a big reader of People's Pharmacy. I love their stuff. And, because I know medicine started with folk medicine, with people finding out, hey, if you take this stuff and you crush it up and, put some hot water on it, it'll help your diarrhea or your headache or whatever. So we know all that stuff comes from somewhere. Anything that's treatment oriented. But you're going to save yourself time, and you're going to save your child a lot of problems if you get educated about the medications and that sort of stuff. And so you're comfortable with it. You've got to be comfortable with it, because if you're all freaky, don't worry about it. Your child is going to get freaky about it and probably invent all sorts of side effects that no one has ever seen before. And I'm not saying that they're going to do it out of a manipulation. It's going to be because of pressure. Mom's expecting something bad to happen. Is that bad? Do I feel that? Is that really, we're way more complicated than a simple, you got a problem, take a pill. We're all of us way more complicated, and our brains are probably more powerful than anything. But then again, you're talking about ADHD, which is a neurologic condition, so your brain works a little differently. But I guess the bottom line in all this I'm saying is that get a good evaluation, start with approved medical procedures, and get them through high school anyway, okay? Because you are going to have a problem with a kid who's not been treated, who's gets frustrated and depressed, and then eventually angry about school and drops out of school, and then has to catch up somehow, and some of them do. Some kids catch up. They get a GED, they go back to school, but they go back to school with renewed motivation, and they go back hopefully knowing what's going on in their brains, so they can compensate better. But don't waste their time with unproven treatments. Bottom line for me, and like I said, I'm a neuropsychologist. I don't write prescriptions. I have absolutely zero to gain, but I do a ton of ADHD evaluations, and I will tell you that the ones that cause me the most angst, if you will, discomfort, are the ones that were identified as probably having ADHD, or some of them actually were diagnosed with ADHD but never treated. And they come into me and they're 29, 30, 31 years old, and they're usually being treated for anxiety and depression caused by the fact that they have troubles concentrating, they didn't do very well in school, they have troubles learning new stuff on the job, and they are not stupid. They got good brains otherwise. They're intellectually, they are doing fine, but they can't bring it to bear. They can't apply it. And if you can't apply it, it's like it doesn't exist. It's like if you have palsy, you could originally have the softest touch in the world, but you're not going to be able to be a wood carver with palsy because you can't bring it to bear. You can't apply. Maybe you've been a wood carver for most of your life, but you can't bring what you've learned over the years, the skills you've developed, to bear because you don't have good control over your hands. Okay, ADHDers don't have good control over their attention. Sure, everybody knows if they're focused, if they're interested in it, they can pay attention like crazy. They can really focus in. Unfortunately, that is rarely about chemistry or algebra or any of a bunch of different academic subjects, most of which are taught in a kind of a boring way anyway. But it's not the teacher's fault, okay? It's we haven't given our children the best shot at being able to make something, to be able to adapt and adjust to the school situation. And you got to understand also that nothing that you do treatment-wise is going to make your ADHD child neurotypical. Okay, they're not going to ever be like the kids that can just sit there passively for 3 hours and apparently absorb everything. They're just not. That's not who they are. That's not what they do. But you've got to learn to be grateful for the things they do so well, for their outside-the-box thinking, for their quick responses, for their creativity, for their senses of humor. I mean, there are things to be grateful for, and most of them are really nice people. But when they get to be adolescents and the pressure is on a little bit more and the situation becomes harder for them, sometimes they react by being not so nice for a while. But basically, underneath, they're nice people. And do yourself a favor, do your child a favor. Treat them effectively. Treat them using proven methods. Okay. I would like to think that that's the last time I'll have to talk about that, but I know it's not true, so do the best you can, and I'll catch you next week. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat program trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. Because remember, ADHDers, as I just said, are outside-the-box thinkers. They're creative. And they may well be the ones who solve most of the world's problems. Because compliant thinkers do not ever make major changes in the world. Think about that. Okay, we'll catch you next time.